to Detroit in Black and White. This is our Friday edition. I'm Adolph Mongo. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Jim. How you doing? Jim
Good
Nardone.
Friday evening. The rain is gone. That's a good sign.
The rain is gone. Allan Lengel. What's up, Allan?
Not much. What's going on? Tigers are winning 1-0 against the Cubs here in Comerica Park.
Okay.
So they sold out the whole weekend, I guess. That's what I heard tonight.
Oh yeah. It's fascinating that they're doing so well, and
it's sold out. You don't have a ticket, Jim?
No, I haven't been to a game in a long time.
Okay, but you like the Lions, don't you?
Yeah, I like the Lions.
Yeah. Well, here we are.
All right.
Welcome, everyone. Day, Queen, whatever going on. Allan, so what's been going on, man?
What is happening? Everything is happening. I was saying earlier today. It's interesting. The Hamtramck mayor, who's Amir Ghalib.
Did he quit? Has he become the ambassador?
No. It hasn't been confirmed yet. They haven't had. It's got to have. Usually, they're pretty easy confirmations or Senate confirmations, unless you've done something really awful. There is some opposition to his. There's some claims by the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, claiming that he's putting some anti-Semitic and racist things on his Facebook page over the years. They've been urging Trump not to go through with the process. But what's interesting is, he was a Democrat, and then this election he became a Republican, and now Trump has put a ban on a lot of Muslim countries, including Yemen, where he's from, and he hasn't said anything about it. But it's a pretty awkward situation to be in, where you're going to be part of an administration that's doing that kind of stuff, My sister-in-law has citizenship, but she's Yemeni. So
Adolph.
Yeah.
You have some big news for tomorrow's show. You let our viewers first. Hello, Day, Queen Bee, Sam, and my old friend Jan from Victory Gym. What are we doing tomorrow?
You tell me.
We have Todd Perkins, the mayoral candidate, who's going to be on.
But we have a new location. Thomas McGee's, is that it?
Yeah, Thomas McGee's over in the Eastern Market, and we're going to be over there tomorrow, and we're going to, should have a good time.
Hello, Karen. Thanks for joining us. So we're going to go to the Irish bar. It's an Irish whiskey bar.
Yeah.
So whiskey on Allan or Adolph? Or
you're not getting drunk tomorrow, are you, Jim?
I was hoping not, but when
last time you been drunk?
It's funny you say that. Probably the story I told Wednesday night. I stole your Jackie Wilson story. I thought that was the biggest lie I ever heard, until I went home and read about it, and everything you said was completely accurate. That was just mind-blowing to me. I didn't tell you about Jackie Wilson's son, Bobby. That's probably the last time I was drunk when I heard that story. I had 2 or 3 tequilas down there at McShane's, and I thought, this is the biggest line of shit I ever heard. But nope. I was comparing it to your Deadline Detroit story and telling the folks that don't doubt Adolph Mongo because he tells you the truth.
He's a truth teller.
Well, I just want to say to the family of Frank Miles, who I went to school with, talked to him last week. He had him on the show.
Yes, we did.
Frank passed away yesterday in his sleep.
Wow.
Sweet guy. Seemed like just a sweet guy.
He was a great guy. There's no question. Lost his son. Oh man, 40 years ago. The son was waiting to go to the football practice, standing on in front of Redford High School. Somebody got into a fight on the bus, they shot at each other and they killed his son. It was a tragic. It was just messed up.
And he'd been living with that for 40 years, 30
Yes,
years.
and they didn't get convicted of nothing.
Huh. Wow. It's crazy.
And I guess today or yesterday's gun violence day or violence day or whatever you want to call it in Detroit. And you know, we're focusing on the wrong thing. I get it, but you know, we got to focus on the people that are behind the crime instead of, you know, the tools that they commit the crimes with, because as we've seen recently, people are using cars or using bats or using whatever they can use to kill other human beings, which is
but there's, I think we can't ignore in the city how you know, random gunfire at, you know, I think there's some blocks around in the city where you hear gunfire on a regular basis. People are getting shot.
Well, you see it everywhere. We got Frankie Darcell, the greatest DJ, one of the greatest DJs in Detroit. I'm honored that she's listening to us. You must not have anything to do, Frankie.
I wish you'd come back to see us. I'd like to hear more about Bill Cosby and some of those stories she told us the first time or the second time I think she was on.
But no, ain't no question. And just us. Vanessa's not here and Eric's not here, but we are here. So, Allan, what is happening?
What's happening? Well, there's some interesting things happening. I mean, we've got the mayoral race. We've had the polls. We're going to have Todd Perkins on tomorrow, who's been screaming about not being included in the Mackinac debate. I think WDIV is having something, and he's being excluded. They're trying to make it a very select group. Another interesting thing, there's a story by Tom Perkins, who worked for the Metro Times for a long time, and he's been a regular correspondent for The Guardian, and he wrote a story up in Ann Arbor. The school, the allegations are that the school has hired private undercover security to follow around pro-Palestinian people.
Why? Listen, Allan, you Jewish.
Yeah.
You pro Jewish, and you should be.
Yes.
But you are also, you recognize that people that of Palestinian descent that like the Palestinians, that, you know, they not a terrorist, whatever, because I want to protest. We've been protesting a long time for whatever.
Right.
That is unbelievable that you can say I'm Palestinian. Oh, I'm gonna go to jail because right. I'm with that.
Right.
How you doing?
There's no look. I'm for civil rights. I'm for the Palestinian people. I'm not for Hamas. I want an end to the war in Gaza. I want the hostages to be released. What the problem is, you have extremists on both sides who are making it difficult to get to where we need to go, where we can stop the killing, where people can go back to trying to rebuild. But you have extremists on both sides. And, you know, frankly, Hamas, you know, the more Palestinians get killed, they feel the better their cause is worldwide. And there's, you know, Netanyahu doesn't give a shit about the Palestinians dying either. And so,
well, but you know, in any group, you have folks that do stuff. When Israel was fighting to be recognized and after World War II and shit, they had Menachem Begin. Well, he was the Stern Group. They was killing people.
Or goon.
Yeah, they was doing what they doing. But you can't blame the regular folks. You just have to, man. It just is ugly that we got a president or we got a government that says you can't protest, I'm gonna kick you out of school because I say that okay, I'm protesting against the war in Gaza, etc. And then well, you got to go. No, you can't do that. Now, if I was, committing violence and I was advocating violence and overthrow of a government, etc. But in this country now, the Proud Boys are suing the DOJ, saying that they been discriminated against, and the DOJ that we got now probably going to pay them. Say, okay,
They're
yeah.
certainly sympathetic to that. I mean, that's part of Trump's base, and it's sad. I mean, what's happening, and on top of all that, we see the intimidation by the media. I mean, the fact that Paramount/CBS wants to settle the lawsuit with 60 Minutes over the editing of an interview with Kamala Harris is the most insane. I've been in this business for many decades. I was at the Washington Post, the Detroit News. I had stories that were controversial stories or investigative stories that went through lawyers. We had teams of lawyers who would go through your stuff and say, this is possibly libelous. So I know pretty well, I'm not going to say I know as much as a First Amendment attorney, but I know pretty well what is libel and what is not. And this is the most frivolous case. And Paramount wants to basically bribe and pay $50 million settlement so they can have their merger with Skydance or something. And they're worried that Trump, I mean, we've never seen anything like this where we see, they've got to worry that it's.
Well, you had never seen it, and maybe we had never seen it, but it's been here before.
Yeah.
It's been here before. Jim, what you think?
Well, here's the issue. What I'm concerned about is going on in this country, the political rhetoric that is getting young people killed in Washington, D.C., a nice young couple that were going to get, Jewish couple that were going to get, I don't even think the young man was Jewish. I think he was an Israeli.
They were both Jewish. He had dual citizenship in Israel and Germany.
But, I'd read that he wasn't even Jewish. Maybe he was. I'm not sure. But
I thought he.
That's what I read. He was a Christian. But
really?
He was a supporter of Israel. That's what I read.
They both worked at the Israeli embassy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
But they were murdered because of the political rhetoric in this country. Boulder, Colorado, is setting people on fire. We talk about focusing on, guns or knives or bombs, but you've got people setting a Holocaust survivor on fire in, I think it's Boulder, Colorado.
That was my friend. My friend. That's my friend and her mother.
Please tell us about it.
They were out there. They are as peace-loving people as you can see. Her and her mother and a group of people have been going out, I think, every week out in Boulder on behalf, not advocating for war. Most of these groups are asking for an end to the war, but they're also asking for the return of the hostages. This Egyptian guy, started throwing like fire bombs and stuff at them. She showed a picture, my friend showed a picture, her legs were all taped up in gauze after the incident. Her mother is 88 years old. And her mother afterwards would talk to NBC News and said, I just think we have to be more civil and more, this is after the attack. We need to be more civil, more understanding and stuff like that. But it's insane. And these people and the woman's husband lives in Israel part-time. They're from here, actually.
But we haven't seen it before, Allan. We haven't seen Black people lynched, burned up at the stake. We haven't seen it. Nobody did anything, and they're not doing anything now. And that these people, am I going to be scared to go somewhere because some crazy asshole come out there and throw a Molotov cocktail, burning somebody up, etc. But then now this is the problem I had with that story. This asshole need to be arrested just like they do. They whatever they gonna do to him, they need to do. But then they went and they arrested his family and his kids, saying, "Didn't y'all have something to do with that?" Not necessarily.
Right.
And White said, "We didn't know what he was gonna do."
Right.
But
yeah, look,
you
that's
know,
a little crazy. I mean,
yes.
you can't take responsibility for your dad necessarily. I can't imagine the whole family was like plotting, going, "Here, Dad."
They arrested 5 kids,
Yeah.
all these kids, and the wife, because they said, "Oh, your father did this." This asshole, he did it on his own. It's like if me, Jim, or you did something, then all of a sudden they kick the door down and they take care of your family. Let's take a break, and then we're gonna come back and continue the conversation. Detroit in black and white.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. Are you living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, or maybe you know someone who's in the same situation? The probate process may be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. We have several nonprofit partners who have free attorneys who can assist you. Contact our office, 313-224-5990, or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. Don't lose your family property. Some of these properties have been in the family for 4 or 5 generations. Contact us now. We're here to help.
Yeah, well, Frankie Darcell said when Trump got arrested and charged, his children wasn't questioned or arrested. And you're absolutely correct. Listen, somebody does something and you kick the door down of all the family, etc. And man, it's just some sad situation. Jim.
Say hi to Karen and Miss Sheila and score 13. Yeah, I'm unaware of what they did. I guess we're all focusing on the crime. We're focusing on, I don't know anything about the family. So that's Boulder, Adolph. Were you out there at one point in that area?
Well, I lived in Colorado Springs and worked out of Denver and Aurora, Colorado. So, yeah.
So you're kind of familiar with the area?
Yeah. Yeah, Boulder is University of Colorado.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the rhetoric that keeps you're saying he's an Egyptian. I don't care where he's from. The question is, he's in this country. Is he a U.S. citizen? Is he not a U.S. citizen? I don't really want to focus on that. I mean, today, I guess. Go ahead.
But, the guy that they sent to El Salvador by mistake, now they bringing him back.
Yes.
They charged him. They indicted him now, saying he was bringing in illegals and stuff. Man, it's just crazy as the fuck.
Well, they released him at the scene, which makes no sense to try and go back and charge somebody for something that happened. There's no evidence. What was that, 3 years ago that he was crossing Tennessee with suspected illegal?
But they were trying to cover up their fuck up.
So now they're going to charge him. I don't understand whether it would be an ounce of evidence to charge him with any of that, unless they have a conspiracy and they have the facts. If they had the facts, why didn't they do it in 2022? That makes no sense.
Allan.
Well, by the way, I was just looking up the Israeli guy from the staff. His father was Jewish and his mother was Christian.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah. So I mean, in terms of Yeah, I mean the reactions there. I mean, the country is so volatile right now. I mean, all that stuff. Look, I'm pro-Palestinian. I want I want peace. I want everyone to live together there. Look, Israel's 20% Arab. Uh, you know, I you go. I
You know what? Listen. I'm sorry about the Palestinians, but when and the British fucked all this shit up over in the Middle East, and when Israel was recognized as a state, the first one to do it was the U.S. Harry Truman.
mm-hmm.
They gave the Palestinians an opportunity to be Palestinians. They said you got a state right along with the Jews.
Yep.
And all the fucking Arab states said, oh, you crazy motherfuckers, don't accept that. We're going to fight Jordan and Egypt and all Libya and all them came charging at Israel. Mm-hmm. And they figured we got them. And they got their ass kicked. And yet, when it was all said and done, nobody wanted the Palestinians. Right. Nobody. Jordan took a whole lot of them, but the rest of them, I don't want them in my fucking country. Y'all created this mess.
Well,
Israel didn't create these camps. The Arabs did. But Israel had been maintaining them just like everybody else. Nobody wants to help the Palestinians. Now everybody crying. What are we going to do with the Palestinians? I don't know. What the fuck are we going to do with them?
Well, look, before 67, before the 67 war, Gaza was under Egypt's control and the West Bank was under Jordan's control. It wasn't even a West Bank Gaza issue, but they didn't want them being citizens. And you see in southern Lebanon, where there are 250,000 refugees who have been generational, they're not allowed. Here's Hezbollah, who's fighting Israel. At the same time, they have 250,000 Palestinian refugees who aren't allowed to buy land, aren't allowed to be citizens. And their whole thing is like, well, we want them to return to Israel, so we don't want to let them sort of assimilate into our country. And so it's, the Palestinian issue is more than just a Israeli-Palestinian issue. It's a Middle Eastern issue, and it ends up in the lap of, the Israelis who, now with Netanyahu, who is not the best person.
He's a real asshole, and he keeps it going. And he don't want to get out. He want to keep it going because he's a criminal. Right. Listen, if he wasn't in office, he would probably be indicted again.
He's under indictment.
Yes,
they still haven't finished. He gets a delay in his trial every time. He says, "We're in the middle of war. I can't be dealing with my trial." He doesn't want. He wants to divert, but they have offered him. See, the thing is, he wants the power. They have offered him a deal. You step down, we'll drop the charges. And he doesn't want to do that. He wants to keep the power in the same way that Hamas doesn't want to let go. If they walked away.
But you can get rid of Hamas. Before Hamas, there was the PLO. There was all these groups. And you're going to continue to get all these fucking groups. And you can't.
Well, what's the solution? In 100 years from today, they're going to be doing the same thing they're doing now.
I'm gonna be dead. You're gonna be dead. We all gonna be dead.
I was in Israel in 2022. I went to Bethlehem on a tour. 21 people. I was the only Jewish person. And when you go into the West Bank, it says no Israelis, dangerous, do not enter here. We had a Palestinian Christian who was our tour guide. And during the tour, he says, there's only 1,000 Christians left in Bethlehem. They're all moving out. And I raised my hand and I said, what's going on? He goes, I'll talk to you later. So we're over at Frank's souvenir shop there, run by Palestinian Christians. We're having a cup of tea. And I said, what's happening? And he goes, the Christians are afraid of the Muslims. He goes, they're leaving. And I said, well, what about the Palestinian Authority? Aren't they protecting him? He goes, they could care less. And he says, if I speak publicly about it, I'm going to get arrested. So and he said to me, if it wasn't for the Israelis, Hamas and Fatah, which is the West Bank, there would be all-out war and it would be nasty. So that whole region is so complicated and so divisive.
Well, it's still nasty, complicated, divisive, whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
But, okay, I don't know what y'all talked about on Wednesday because I wasn't here, but I was on WJR on the Paul W. Smith show with Nolan Finley and Stephen Henderson sitting in on them, and they talked about the poll. It's a runaway poll.
Yeah.
And my answer was, I remember in 1990 when the Detroit News and Nolan Finley probably bowed his head. He said, oh, man, don't bring that up. Where the Detroit News said that Blanchard was 14 points ahead of England in the polls. The Free Press say England was losing to Blanchard by over 5%. And we know at the end of the day, and the next day, England was the governor. These polls and 2005, Freeman Hendricks kicked Kwame Kilpatrick ass in the primary, and they put it on cruise control. They would start playing Smokey Robinson Cruising, and they start cruising, and they start appointing people to positions that they didn't have. Boom, Kwame wins. Now, Mary Sheffield is a Teflon candidate. I'm sorry. It's like I compare her to a studio singer, Milli Vanilli. Y'all looking at Milli Vanilli, they look good. Milli Vanilli look good. Damn, they can sing until you find out they was lip singing. Somebody else was doing the singing. It wasn't them. And that's what she might win the primary. And I'm not saying this poll is wrong, but I'm gonna tell you, whoever finished second, they can beat her if they ask the right questions, if they come at it the right way. At this point, she ain't got a pass. There's a whole list of things that Mary Sheffield has not done. Mary Sheffield is a Teflon candidate. There's no question.
Well, let me ask you, gentlemen, a question. I think is it Bankley Thompson? Is that his name?
Bankley Thompson, yeah.
Well, he said, I thought it was interesting. While everybody's jumping on it, well, Mary Sheffield's so far ahead. She's got this thing won. He basically had a column and I guess an editorial in one of the major newspapers that said Detroit News that says she's in trouble. She doesn't have the support that she needs, and 38% is not going to get her there. Is what I took from that.
Well, I think you're talking about 38%, but that's split among multiple candidates. So when it gets down to two candidates,
but she might make. Listen, say she make it past the primary. I think whoever finished second, say they finished second to her, they can beat her. Because I got a list of fucking things that can take her out. She can't answer these questions. You name 5 fucking things that Mary Sheffield has done on the city council. Listen, Beyonce is glitz and glamour and all this shit. She can't sing a fucking lick. You can go into the fucking studio and you got producers, they producing, and they make you sound like a fucking genius. They can make me sound like Sam Cooke and shit. But if I get the fuck out on the stage, I'm sounding like me. Ain't nobody want to listen to me. And that's what you're going to have to answer these fucking questions.
I'll agree with you. I mean, as long as, once it gets down to two candidates, then it's, the true race is on. So right now that the question becomes who will be that second candidate. And, it could be Reverend Kinloch. It could be Chief Craig. Then you have,
I don't know about Chief Craig.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule him out though.
No, I'm not ruling anybody out. I'm not ruling nobody out as winning, because when it was all over, when Blanchard lost, they analyzed this election and the polls, where the pollsters they asked questions that was favorable to Blanchard, and people say Blanchard is running away with it. This is what they saying about Mary Sheffield. Gil Hill, when he lost his race to Kwame, and he decided to come back and run for council again, he run against Joanne Watson, and polls said that he got 90% name recognition. Nobody knew Joanne Watson. And Joanne Watson, it was a special election to replace Brenda Scott, who had died. Joanne Watson didn't have a chance, according to the polls. But when Joanne Watson spent all her money on a commercial that says Gil Hill been on the council for 12 fucking years, the last 4 years as council president, what has he done? That turned the tide, because they couldn't name not one fucking thing that he's done.
Well, let me ask you.
At the end of the day, she beat the shit out of Gil Hill.
You've run a lot of campaigns. When it gets down to two candidates, let's say it's Sheffield and whoever. What does that whoever have to do?
If I'm running a campaign, why are you hanging out with motherfuckers that was felons?
Yeah.
So
why all your money is coming from? They said the marijuana folks is throwing the money all over. These are questions that I'm not. I'm not running against her. I know her. You know what? She's a nice person. Ain't no question about it. Is her campaign going to be the same as Kwame? The charisma is great. She looked good. She's a candidate that people love. Kwame. He fit the mold and stuff, but then he got in there. His daddy was had his hand out and did all kind of shit. This is this deja vu all over again.
What about Horace? What do you see? You see Horace playing any role in this game?
Horace is boss hog.
Yeah,
boss hog. He boss hog. I know Horace.
Yeah,
Horace done a lot of good in the city. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But Horace he created his daughter persona and he put her in, and he's gonna do whatever it takes to get her elected. That's what parents do. Do we want her? Who's running it? Because you bring Ben Trump in, and my great friend Greg Mathis, who he's a good friend and shit. Michael Eric Dyson and all the shit. You got all the celebrities coming in, and people are who's doing? Who is who?
Well, let me ask you. The church has always some great presence in the voting. You've got Mary's
what church?
Well, I don't know, but
What fucking church? The church is full of shit in Detroit.
Well, let me ask you, with Reverend Kinloch and Horace Sheffield, who's got more influence in the religious community?
Do you really think so?
Horace, for sure. There's no doubt. When it comes time, because the young people are going to probably gravitate towards Mr. Kinloch, but everybody that's over 50, when you say Horace Sheffield, they all know who he is. Can we just talk about a couple of the comments? G Money Hollywood says basically that if it's Kinloch and Mary Sheffield, that Sheffield's gonna, I'll use my words here, wipe the floor with Kinloch. I think that's absolutely correct. But Sam said we've been spoiled under Mike Duggan's leadership. Now, Mike Duggan's leadership comes into question, but he did execute it. So I'm going to ask a question here. I don't know if it's going to.
He had people to clear the road for him.
Is Mary Sheffield Mike Duggan light?
No, listen. Mike Duggan is Edgar Bergen. Mary Sheffield is Charlie McCarthy. She's sitting on his lap, and he's doing the talking. Frankie Darcell said the greatest challenge for both women in the race is their backing of supporters that are women. Neither are members of any major women organizations or initiatives. That's their biggest hurdle. With that, what's going to be projected low voter turnout in the primary. The majority of that vote are seniors and women. So we'll see what the deal is. You are absolutely right, my sister Frankie Darcell. And you know what? I'm just saying, yeah, who's talking? Who's singing the song? REO Speedwagon, they found out they was lip syncing at a concert. I could sit at my house and listen to the fucking album. I don't have to listen. I don't want to see Smokey Robinson sing anything right now. Right. One of the greatest songwriters, one of the greatest singers. He can't sing. So why would I go and see him with his plastic face? He had 10 plastic surgeries and he can't sing anymore unless somebody can sing for him. Barry Gordy was great at when he had folks that was sick. Tammy Terrell, Paul Williams from the Temptations. He put them on the stage anyway, and he had people lip syncing.
So are you talking about Electric Light Orchestra at Pontiac Silverdome, or are you talking about REO Speedwagon? You got to
all of them was full of shit.
REO Speedwagon was a good band back in the 70s. They had a great guitar player. He's now
they can't sing, and I know you know all the shit. But the bottom line is that they used to have a commercial with Ella Fitzgerald. What did they say? Is it live
or is
it Memorex?
And here comes our music man, just like that.
Yes,
he's our good friend from Toronto via Ireland. And
yeah,
he knows who all the real players are in the Irish music scene. He knows about Rory and Phil and all those guys, right? So we can talk about music. I don't remember that REO Speedwagon being accused of that, but if you say so,
but you can name singers that they're great.
Yeah, I'm not defending REO Speedwagon. Don't get me wrong,
but they live. They can sing. They can get out there. And they sang live and they sound great. And then you say, damn, that's a studio invention.
Then don't go see the Eagle.
Mary Sheffield is a studio invention. I have to give her credit. She was the first to get out there and decided to run for mayor. No problem. She's the first to raise the money. No problem. Where's the money coming from? That's what some of these candidates need to be saying.
The thing is, we see such little scrutiny of any of the candidates. Really, I mean, there's so many candidates we don't know enough about. We don't even know where half of them, went to school. what jobs, what resumes they have and stuff like that, what
Right.
experience. We've seen so much and we know so little.
Well, yeah, what did Mary do before she got elected to city council?
She worked for the county jail. She worked for Benny Napoleon.
What was her claim to fame as being the youngest elected to city council? Right. You know what? Sound bites are great. You can say some fucking sound bites and shit, but they have not produced shit.
But it's not about leading, Adolph. It's about getting elected. We've seen that in 3 presidential elections in a row. We elected Trump, then we picked Biden to get rid of Trump, and then we picked Trump again. Nobody cared about his leadership. Where is the leadership over the last?
Well, now
who cares about it? Who cares about the leadership?
Well, people care now that he came in and said he was going to destroy everything that's been America. So they should care fucking about it. I listen. What are we going to do if we get in there? When you have somebody that's hanging out with folks and, oh man, they suspect. But who am I? I'm nobody. I'm not running for office.
I want to read a quote from James Waterman Weiss, who died in 1983. And he says, when fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross. That was 1983.
Were they talking about Biden or Trump?
Well, I find the fascism more now when you're eliminating due process, when you're overriding the courts, you're ignoring.
They've been doing that for 50 years.
Well, Jim, if you don't see a distinction,
I do see it, but I've seen it for the last 50 years.
You have to open your eyes a little bit.
I've seen it for the last 50 years.
I'm sorry.
I've seen what Biden did with the going to what's his name? The guy from Facebook and saying, you can't put that stuff on Facebook. We're the government. We're telling you what you can put out there. That's not fascism to you?
Yeah, now we've gotten straight to the oligarchs. And
you might be right.
Jeff Bezos. We've gone to the editor of the LA Times. We're going to Paramount, and they're all fucking afraid. We've got.
But did you work for them, Allan?
I worked for.
Well, why were people screaming when Biden was shoving shit down?
There were people screaming.
I can see the Facebook and saying you can't do that.
You act like the Republicans were meek, the quiet little people.
Never said that.
Biden was in.
I remember saying that.
Now, when we say something and it's like, oh my God, where was everyone with
it's
Biden?
The same.
The Republicans never stopped screaming the whole time and still protesting the 20.
I don't even know why the Republicans. Thank you. I don't even know why the Republicans was even screaming because Democrats was in control. Those motherfuckers didn't do shit. And they didn't do nothing. And then the Republicans come in and go berserk. But I'm going to tell you, I'm looking at Detroit, and you don't tell me that Duggan ain't got his hands in this mayoral election. Hell yes. Mary is his girl. He probably pushing whatever he's pushing towards her, pushing the money, pushing the support, but she is all fluff and no substance. We're going to take a break and come back and continue our conversation with Jim Nardone and Allan Lengel, Detroit in Black and White on Friday edition.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
I want to raise something else. When we talk about what's going on right now, we talk about the Justice Department, we talk about the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., where scores of attorneys who prosecuted January 6 rioters, who attacked police, were fired because we've never seen some of that going on. We've seen people in the Justice Department fired because they're doing their jobs and trying to be ethical. They've tried to clear a path of least resistance. And
So you're saying the Democrats are this big shining star and they have all these ethics and the Republicans don't. Well, let me tell you a little story here. For 4 years, the press and the Democrats pulled off the biggest scam in the history of this country the last 4 years. And you know what? The American people figured it out. Their only choice was Donald Trump. That's the sad part. They conspired.
It wasn't 4 years.
This is the most powerful man in the United States of America, and they lied. They lied. How are you okay with that?
I'm not okay. Well, you're assuming I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with that.
You're assuming I'm okay with the other way.
Not okay is that people are so afraid to stand up to Trump. They're afraid whatever criminal act he does, we've got the Supreme Court now, which is giving him a green light. We've got Congress who's afraid to push back in any way. There's no checks and balances right now.
Well, that's our fault, Allan.
Yeah.
That's the people's fault. It's the people's fault.
It doesn't mean we shouldn't bring it up, Jim. I'm going to tell you,
Allan.
Let me say something.
You're the same.
No, let me say something about the Biden thing. Criminal, yes. It wasn't all 4 years. I think it was the last couple of years. There were cover-ups on certain things. I don't condone it whatsoever. But what's going on? I think there's a little crazy in Trump that people are ignoring. He's saying stuff talking about Joe Biden was killed. There's a robot in his place. He said some crazy fucking shit that if Joe Biden says that, they would be leading him out in his bathrobe out of the White House.
Well, I agree with you, Allan, and I agree with you, Jim. But I'm gonna tell you, coming back to Detroit, was Duggan a robot, Gretchen Whitman a robot, and these motherfuckers. I'm gonna tell you, this race to replace Duggan and stuff has been a slow trot. People are not, they're not into it.
Well, I think we should be turning on the TV. We should be seeing commercials.
They don't have any money.
Yeah, some of them do. It's not.
Who got the money?
I think Fred Durhal. At least it's not a lot, but I know the last check was well over 100,000. Santil had well over 100,000.
They don't want to spend.
Mary has $500,000. There's money there.
They're not spending it, and they're gonna wait till 10 yards out, and they're gonna start running. All right, listen, they just not doing what they're doing. Hey, maybe I should have ran for mayor. I would have just fucked up everything because I would have been all over the city, talking, pointing the fingers, saying what some of these people should be saying, and they're not fucking saying. They're not doing nothing.
Mongo for mayor. It has a ring.
Fuck Mongo for mayor. Nobody running for mayor. We need that. I just wish that the people that we have come out and do their thing. Here we are smacking each other and shit. But you both are right. Joe Biden, his people fucked up. His press secretary, all of a sudden, man, I'm not a Democrat anymore, bitch. What are you? You took the money for 4 fucking years, talked that shit, and now I'm not a Democrat. I don't like what they was doing. You should have fucking stepped aside.
She should have quit or spoke up.
Right, and she did.
To be part of the conspiracy, so to speak, and then capitalize on it and look.
That's like George Stephanopoulos. He was a Hillary Clinton. He used to kiss all on her body until he got a job at ABC, and then he came out against them. Fuck him, a little mini me, whatever.
I want to go back to Chaz for just a second. Chaz said something about not being a conspiracy. Let me tell you, people told me they voted for Kamala Harris for one reason, because they didn't want Donald Trump to get his hands on a nuclear code, a suitcase, right?
You already got it.
But guess who had it before him?
Oh.
Joe Biden.
No,
You think Joe Biden should have had his hands on a nuclear code?
He didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, but the difference is, Biden surrounded himself with some good people. I don't see a lot of good people around Trump.
Biden wasn't making any decisions. Who was making the decisions? We don't even know.
Well, look, Reagan was in office for probably the last couple of years. He had a lot of good people around him, including his wife, who was really kind of the president. But
Reagan he was dead for the last 2 years, and his wife, etc. Sam said, of course, it is what he said.
A slow.
They're all trying to replace a great man, Duggan. I don't know where the fuck you been, Sam. If you ever was really watching how Duggan got in there. On one hand, Duggan people said that 98% of the people in Detroit can't read or write, but they managed to write in Duggan as mayor. So I don't agree with you, Sam. I am.
I will say this. I think Duggan, Coleman Young, I think they were two of our better mayors. And I was too young to really judge Kavanaugh and Roman Gribbs at that point. But I would say the difference is Coleman Young came in where he was swimming up against the tide. I mean, he'd come in after.
He didn't have people wipe away the debt. Yeah. He didn't have all the shit that people was giving money and shit. Duggan had a clear road. Somebody came and helped Duggan. Fuck it. I ain't mad at Duggan. I am not mad at Duggan.
It's different circumstances. Look, 6 years after the Detroit riot or the Detroit rebellion, whatever you prefer to describe it, Coleman Young comes in. The city is devastated. There's just miles and miles of burned out buildings, and people are moving out. They're fleeing to the suburbs.
They was fleeing anyway.
Then you have Duggan who comes in. The city's fucked up, but he's got.
It's still fucked up.
Yeah, but he's got the
neighborhoods are fucked up, Allan.
Let me.
You ain't moving. You ain't moving to some of these neighborhoods. You wouldn't. They don't have any schools. They don't have shit. All these fuckers, you can talk to some of these candidates and say, should we run? I say this because I know that the mayor just can't take over the schools. But when I say, should the mayor run the schools? They run and hide under a fucking rock. I really don't think so. They don't even send their fucking kids to the schools here.
Until Jenkins said, when we interviewed her, she said she's not in favor of the mayor taking over the schools.
Well, and all of them said they're not in favor of it because it's like it's like being Ahab and running to catch Moby Dick. But it's a white whale. I understand that.
All right. I'd like to finish my thought. Is that what I was going to say? Is that when Duggan came in, opposite of what Coleman Young came in, he had the bankruptcy to clear the slate, and he had Dan Gilbert to develop the downtown and
Well, he had the Illiches. He had the Illiches, but particularly Dan Gilbert. He had everybody. They loved him because you had people that said, you know what? Detroit is not going to come back until they had a white mayor. Here, and that's the truth. This was said in the black community, and I'm not saying white people said it. Black folks said it, and a lot of black folks voted for Duggan because they said we got to get some money here, we got to get some money there. But you know what? I agree that downtown is the living room of the biggest city in Michigan, and we need to take care of it. But we got to take care of other places.
There should be a balance.
Yes, and we haven't done it. Haven't not done it. Duggan ain't said shit about the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy. Not one fucking thing.
Yeah.
Not one. Now, if Coleman Young was the mayor, the Detroit News and the Free Press and them would be throwing the blame at him. Nobody said nothing about her sitting, Mary Sheffield sitting up there, and as a member, when she said, "Well, that's not my job to."
She had the wrong answers. She had the wrong
Yes, there's no question about it. So yes, we got to ask some tough questions, and people are not asking tough questions. They letting folks get away with it.
I mean, the question is how, and things will intensify when they, after the primary, when there's just two candidates to focus on. But
do you really think so?
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, when Duggan ran last time against what's his name, Adams,
he didn't do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nothing race. It was the quietest race.
Right, it didn't do nothing. And the media, you was part of that media. Y'all didn't do nothing.
I wrote columns. I did write a column or two. Duggan needs to.
You didn't do anything.
I said Duggan needs to debate. We can't have. It's not fair to.
But he didn't debate. He didn't listen to you.
So Sam's talking about some of the progress in Detroit, and I'm going to ask this question. From my perspective, I agree with Allan on this. I think there's progress. Is there things that he forgot to deal with? One, Karen, that makes me crazy as crazy as anything is. They need to make their employees whole. They need to take care of the people that take care of the city, and Duggan didn't do that. So I have a problem with that. He didn't go. We talked about this on Wednesday's show, Adolph. You weren't here. We talked about the resources that the Detroit Police Department and Fire Department and all the resources that are going into downtown. Why are they ignoring some of the other areas? And Allan's argument is, well, I'm sorry, make your argument, Allan. You talked about that we need downtown, and I agree with that.
Yeah, I was saying we have to have a balance. I mean, we can't ignore the neighborhoods, but we also can't. People are like, fuck the people who are coming into the city. Well, if you want to have events, you want to generate revenue, you want to have the LCA, you want to have concerts, you want to have sporting events, restaurants, people coming in. You've got to make people feel like it's okay to come into the city.
They've been coming in the city forever.
They have, but
here's the argument. Here's the argument, Adolph. You talked about your uncle that lived on Pembroke. Why should a guy that lives on Pembroke or Mayoral feel less safe than a guy that drives in, parks at the casino, spends $100 and walks across to watch a football game? Why should I feel safer than a guy that lives at 6 Mile and Woodward? Why is it that?
Well, ain't no question about that, and we're going to continue that. We're gonna be over at Thomas McGee's tomorrow, and we got Ty Perkins as the major guest. Am I right, Allan?
Yes, he should be there at 10 a.m.
How about Adolph? You look at, you don't like my music's last comment. We do need more than police and fire. You've been talking about everything that we need. We need to eliminate poverty in the city.
Well, you ain't gonna eliminate poverty in the city. Even Jesus said there always gonna be some poor folks, and there's gonna be some poor people. A final thought, Allan.
Well, as Jim said, look, fighting crime, reducing crime is more than just up to the police. Education, employment, housing, it's all, as we talked about at one of our Saturday shows, there has to be a long-term plan, but there also has to be a short-term plan so that people have to wait 3-4 years before they feel safe filling up at a gas station or whatever. So that's mine.
Well, I don't feel safe going to being in Warren and Southfield and some other places getting gas late at night because the criminals across 8 Mile Road and they're everywhere. Jim.
I agree with you, but the crime didn't come first. The crime came later. It's the community that we lost. It's reasonable housing that we lost. It's all these things that led to crime. The lack of opportunity led to the drug trade, not just in Detroit, but all across this country. Young kids had no hope. So they're out there slinging dope. and they all end up dead or in jail.
Well,
It's a symptom.
It didn't become a mental health problem until the young suburban kids started getting hooked. And then
Came down to Detroit, spent their daddy's
Right.
money, and gave their daddy's car away to get a crack rock.
and ain't no
The
question.
people from Taylor and Trenton and Warren and St. Clair Shores, they drive into the city and well,
But that reminds me of when they had all the prostitutes all the way down 8 Mile Road on the Detroit side, and most of their customers were suburban guys. But yet, during the day, they're saying, "Oh, the crime on 8 Mile Road is something else, the prostitutes and stuff." And the same people that were saying it was the customers and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, we'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock over at Thomas McGee's. We're going to have Ty Perkins. And Ty Perkins is going to tell us why he should be the next mayor of Detroit. Hey, thank you to all the folks that listened to us tonight and made their comments. Thank you, Teresa, and we'll be back tomorrow. Jim, Allan, thanks.